Yes, Sir Hairless here. Today we're back with Dimash and this is I'll Die for the Wind of the Mountains. It's an Armenian song and this performance is taken from a concert in Armenia in the capital city Yerevan. There are only fan cams available for this performance, so do make sure to wear headphones to make sure you can hear the performance properly because the quality might not be as good as some of the professionally recorded stuff. I've received many comments recommending this song and quite a few of them say to choose a longer video because it includes his Dónde introduction. A dombra is a stringed instrument typical of Kazakh folk songs, so it will be cool to see Dimash playing some of that. This song is an Armenian folk song and Dimash performs it in Armenian. I think it's great how he always seems to sing songs native to the country he's performing in. It's a sign of utmost respect for those hosting nations, and I think it will certainly give the local fans something to remember. I've listened to several versions of this song, just once through each. They are all quite different whilst sentimentally seeming quite similar. So unlike Dimash's other cover songs, I probably won't be pointing out any similarities or differences to a particular original version because I'm not sure what exactly the original is and if there's any one version that Dimash is using as a basis for this performance. Here are the lyrics on the screen. Please do pause and read through. I found various versions, so I've put a couple of them up here. Alright, I think let's get straight into it. Alright, that was quite a long introduction, I guess. It looks like he's about to start singing. I want to stop here and quickly mention a few things from the intro. Some really interesting stuff there, so if you don't want to hear my thoughts or analysis, go to the timestamp. On the screen, there were these bits of text that came up in the left. They were kind of like contextual snippets. So for anyone who doesn't read English, I'll just read them out in words and hopefully the translations or the subtitles on this video can be useful. 2023, in an interview on TV before his concert, Dimash was asked if he will sing something in the Armenian language. He replied modestly that he doesn't feel too sure of himself, but if he will feel confident enough by the time of the concert, he might attempt it. This was a day before the concert, so it seemed like a long shot. Then, suddenly, in the middle of the concert, this happened. So he learnt this within a day. I mean, that's quite cool, isn't it? I'm eager to see, well, the song. The obvious thing is the atmosphere created by the music. It's amazing, isn't it? It's so atmospheric. There are all these noises and sound effects we can hear, so many of them. To me, I feel that they are in some way mimicking sounds of nature. When combined in such a way, here it creates quite a mystical feeling, something almost otherworldly. Dimash's playing of the dombra that we can see here. I'd never heard of the dombra before Dimash. I don't really know anything about it. I'm no dombra expert. I play the guitar, so that would be the most similar instrument to the dombra that I have experience with. So I can only really come from that angle. I love his trills, though. Plucking with the right hand index finger, trilling on the fret, if they have frets. It's a very delicate way of playing, such a nice folk sound. And then we have some little strums on this power chord equivalent, if we were thinking in terms of guitar. And as the introduction goes on, we get more of this kind of flicking style of play. I think it's very cool. The Dombra only has 2 strings, so I guess the thumb becomes kind of moot, unlike with a guitar when it can serve a purpose of plucking as well. And here he plays a repeated note. If we watch his left hand, you'll see it kind of shaking. That's to add some textural variety in the sound. It's the equivalent of vibrato. If played on the guitar, it would be something like this. As for the music itself, the harmony, I won't get into that now. I'm curious to see what happens when he starts singing. What I will say though, this chromatic inflection just before he starts singing, it's quite pensive. The note it finishes on, this one, that's a C sharp. That's the root note here. That's a note that has been constantly playing like a drone, never changing underneath the whole thing so far. But I imagine I'll come and touch on this in a bit. So let's continue. Wow, what a reaction from the audience when he started singing there. This is one of those performances where you just have to sit and watch, you know, it's captivating, really. Like I said, the audience, when he comes in, there's something really powerful about this. I got immediate goosebumps. His melody, he's outlining this bare fifth. And we have the drone note playing this C sharp, way more down though. So even when Dimash moves from here, we still get this sound, the open fifth sound, which is quite an archaic sounding interval. His exaggerated vibrato, it suits the folk style so well. It's so exaggerated, it's almost like fluctuating between 2 discernible notes. And notice the echo of his voice being played in the background too, after he stopped singing. Almost like there are 2 people singing there. The second phrase, what a phrase. His tone in that blended voice, it's piercing. It just goes straight through your body. He's using straight tone, so no vibrato, but then the vibrato, those wobbles come towards the end of the phrase, so he's growing into the phrase. That just really helps with this notion of growth throughout the phrase. Emotional power. And the breaks between the notes. So cool, it's this very, very obvious switching between voice types. Mostly this chest-dominated sound, flicking up into his head voice. This almost glottal stop type sound, it's what really, really exaggerates this. Effectively, he is yodeling. So how about the music at its core? It's harmony. Harmonically speaking, it's very Eastern sounding. And the music at its harmonic foundation is fundamentally different to Western music, which is what I assume most of us watching this right now listen to most of the time, Western music. The scales used in Western music, so the combination of notes, they're what your popular artists use, your Justin Biebers, your Ed Sheerans, the Beatles, Queen, going way back, even Mozart, Chopin, Beethoven, Bach. So if some of this here sounds a bit strange to you, it's because the fundamental harmony is just different. It's almost comparable, I guess, to like another language or a different type of something, like white chocolate versus milk chocolate. Sorry, that's probably a bad example, but I'm sure you understand where I'm coming from. So, as I said before, we have a C sharp constantly playing. Always underneath sounding, it never ceases to sound. So, by Western musical standards, we'd say we're in C sharp minor. These are the notes we'd expect to hear in the scale. On this phrase, hovin mernem, we essentially hear this. And it's this note here, the F natural, that is the peculiar note. It's not in the scale. Here are the notes in the scale of C sharp minor, and there's that note. It is in C sharp major, though. And it's called E sharp. In terms of equal temperament, E sharp and F natural sound exactly the same. So it fits in with the major version of C sharp, but not the minor, which is what the music has been alluding to this whole time. The other interesting thing, difference between major and minor scales. In C sharp, it would be notes number 3 and 6 that change from major to minor. All the others stay the same. So here are all the notes, not including notes number 3 and 6. In the minor scale, notes 3 and 6 would be this, and in the major scale, they would be this and this. So in major, they're just one note above in the minor. This phrase we just heard, it has the major third, but the minor sixth, which alone is enough to confuse us because of its inclusion of both the major and minor elements. It's not something that you typically find in Western music, it's just different. We could go into the different musical modes, which are basically changes to certain notes in the scales. Phrygian, Aeolian, Locrian. We get the Locrian mode, for example, here on Tesnogi Yer. So overall, my point is, I don't know how worthwhile it is me trying to get into the harmony, because fundamentally the music is based on a different harmonic foundation that most of us are familiar with and think in terms of. Alright, I mean, yeah, just a great display of vocal skill really, isn't it? He enters that top note after a break into his head voice, and he enters sharp, so a bit above the note. Why does he do this? Well, he slides down to then come off the note below the note. So entering a bit above it really exaggerates the downward motion. He has a tiny bit more room to slide down and come off with this airy voice that he ends up using. A bit further on, I like these gradually descending phrases that he does sequentially. Because of this drone note that we hear, that never moves. Every single note that he's singing essentially makes a 2-note chord with this drone note. So let's listen to each of these one by one. I'll move the drone up to make it a bit easier to see. So the drone, and then Dimash. And then the next phrase. We're getting all these dissonances. The first time round, this note was here, and now it's here. It's rife with dissonance, and the melody is slightly adjusted to make them different to each other. It's a song of longing. He's saying, I haven't seen my beloved in a year. I'll die for the eyes of the people who have seen my beloved. These dissonances, these different combination of notes and dissonances against the drone, I think that they really add to the anguish of the music. They make the body tense up and just agree with the pain that the singer is feeling. Whew. All right, let's continue. I don't know if it's just me, but I find time goes both slowly and quickly in this. It goes quickly because, I mean, that's been another minute and a half since our last pause, and it feels like 20 seconds. But it goes slowly just because of the atmosphere and the mysticism of it. You're completely enveloped by the performance. That's how I feel anyway. Maybe you disagree. Just a few things from what we've heard, because that's been a bit more of a powerful performance to what we've heard previously. Here we go. That note, the C sharp, the root note, the same as the drone. That is also one note above the wow operatic tenor moment. Of course, Dimash isn't singing in his full chest voice, he's using that pure, powerful, piercing tone. Blended voice, straight tone, no vibrato. Growing into the vibrato. And as he grows, his vowel sound changes as well to become more open. From eh to more of an ah sound. Musically, things are mostly the same, melodies, harmonies. Well, we spoke about them before, still the drone has not moved, it's just that one note all the way at the bottom. So I don't have too much to say about it. I just want to talk about Dimash's vocal accuracy, how his note switches are just so precise. It must require a lot of energy. I mean, let's watch this in slow-mo. So accurate, and in real time we can barely even notice it. And those atmospheric sounds, are so many of them still just going on. Like the drone, there was one here, it really reminds me of a rattlesnake, which in turn makes me think of the desert, which in turn makes me think of barrenness, which in turn makes me think of loneliness, which is what the song is about. And then we get that blended voice, the one that I refer to as Dimash's more strained voice. I noticed that he usually uses this when he's singing the more pained parts of a song, moments of despair. The lyrics, I'm filled with tears, I can't cry. So it's very fitting to hear it at this moment. There was also another unexpected note, at least for me. That top note there. Based on what we've been hearing before, we'd expect. But instead we get this flattened chromatic inflection. And when coupled with these throaty sounds of the words here, the intensity, I think, has increased. It's quite, I don't know, I don't want to say agitating, but I think unsettling. That's probably a better word, you know, it's not relaxing. Also, I kind of forget, he's doing the whole thing on his knees. He's been on the knees his whole time, which is not usual for a singer performing. All just these little things and differences that really contribute to the overall sound and feel of the performance. I think it's a very, very interesting one. All right, let's continue. There's about 1 minute left, so we'll go to the end. Here at the end there's some more text. It says that the vocalization is perhaps the sound of the wind in the mountains and of longing, but it's also sound of the Armenian wind instrument, the duduk, which Dimash loves and has used in his arrangement of the song No. Some of the comments I received in my other videos that recommended this song, they did mention that Dimash impersonates the duduk with his own voice at the end. Again, very cool. What an interesting thing to do. This is a duduk, by the way. And then Dimash. The human voice is an instrument after all, and probably the most versatile natural instrument. Well, I don't really have much more to say. This was a very, very interesting song, very interesting experience. It's always cool to discover things that are so cultural like this, because otherwise I never would have discovered it. Its musical infrastructure, the harmony, the melody, all these things, completely different to what I'm used to and what I think in terms of. Yeah, some very cool things in there. The C sharp, that note at the bottom that never changed. All the sounds for the atmosphere constantly going throughout. And I think because of this, when Dimash was singing and doing the duduk sounds, it's quite improvisatory. He probably had a lot of freedom to do what he wants because there aren't loads of other things going on that he has to abide by. I'm sure all Armenian people will be very, very happy with this one. Alright, let's leave that there. Thank you as always for watching, and would appreciate a like and subscribe. If you enjoy my content, want to support me, join the community and vote on future polls, you can do so by joining the Patreon or YouTube memberships link below, and I will see you next time.